Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mining Now. I'm your host, Jared Downey. We are bringing mineral process control back on the show. The last episode, we covered the PEL 1000. We covered a lot of, and sort of the company as an overview. But now we're going to drill down into sort of their part in the processing, contributing to the processing plant side of things. So, it's going to be quite an in-depth discussion. We're going to have Nathan Edwards, he's their business manager, back on the show. Before we jump into that, we're doing our heavy industry tour. Our next stop is going to be Africa. It's going to be in Indaba, South Africa, February 6th to 9th. So if you're attending Indaba, let us know. You can jump on for an episode there. And then on the Crownsman show, we're going to be in Florida at PowerGen. That's February 21st to 23rd. So that's going to be, I've been to that show. We haven't done shows from there yet, but it's a great event. So make sure to let us know. And of course, thank you to Savanaugh Equipment for getting us all over the world to do this tour. In fact, this episode with Mineral Process Control is being filmed from their location, and Dennis is there setting up the equipment and running it for us. So, Nathan, welcome to the show. Great to have you back on.
Thanks for having me back on, Jared. It's good to be here.
Yeah, it was a good starter show for last time, but there was so many things that we didn't cover this time, so we're going to kind of drill down more. I think to start this show, can you walk us through? We covered a lot of like kind of the overview of the company, but I just kind of wanted. Can you just kind of like the summary of the product offering, and then we kind of can look out how it sort of fits into the process?
Yeah. Probably a good starting point would be talk about what services, what parts of the industry that we actually service. So we're producing, I think I might have said generally in the last interview, that we're producing products and chemicals for the gold extraction and assaying industries, but also extension into silver mining and also copper. So we're producing a range of equipment and chemicals to assist in those processes. Talking about the singular first product, which I spoke about, is the Leachwell, which is a cyanide accelerant, which we produce for laboratory use, but also used for gold processing plants for the recovery of coarse gold, because the Leachwell, as I think I mentioned previously, is a cyanide accelerant, so it increases the speed of the reaction of the cyanide in the gold cyanide dissolution reaction. We also produce in the chemical range an assay tab. Probably go into a bit more detail later. The assay tab is a combination of cyanide and the Leachwell product, which then makes it easier and safer for the operator to use, because obviously with cyanide being a toxic compound, you want to reduce the handling requirements. So we've enabled that through the tableting of the product. And then from those reagents, we've produced a number of pieces of equipment, and you can then utilise those reagents in mainly the assaying side. That's from bottle roll machines, tumbling machines, the PEL, which you can see behind me, and also centrifuges and a range of other equipment. The final product we produce to talk about would be our Detox, which is a cyanide destruction chemical. So it'll react with the cyanide to convert it into harmless elements and chemicals, which can then actually be discharged straight to sewage. So that means for the operator using our cyanidation products, we also produce a chemical for the safe disposal of the cyanide waste.
So I wanted to clarify something. Which of your products, like let's say the assay tabs, and I want to go into sort of the process control part where you really shine. But I was just curious. So like the assay tabs, are they sold? Are people buying those separately, or does all your equipment go hand in hand? Like which of your equipment?
No, it can all be. Yeah, you could. Sorry to interrupt. You can basically utilise the assay tabs without the PEL, without the tumbler, etc. But if I probably talk about what I'll do is I'll go back and talk about the bottle roll technique, and it'll probably shed some light in regards to how all this fits together.
Sure.
So
Cleario custom creates 3D and immersive experiences, presentations, and apps. Use this amazing technology to promote projects or products, communicate plans and outcomes to stakeholders, train your employees and customers, hold virtual meetings around the world with your project's data. For infrastructure, environmental, and industrial projects, Cleario's expertise converts your spatial data into holographic 3D scenes or full applications that tell your story in a compelling and intuitive way. It's time to join the metaverse for the real world. Learn more at cleario.studio. Founded in 1989 in South Africa, the Bloom Burton Engineering Group is a world leader in ventilation, refrigeration, and cooling systems for underground mines. BBE Consulting Canada, created in Greater Sudbury, Ontario, is part of the BBE Group of companies since 2016. Its services include mine ventilation and cooling system modeling, feasibility studies, detailed engineering, procurement and construction management, as well as site ventilation surveys, ventilation audits, and training mentoring for underground mines across all America. You can reach out to BBE Consulting Canada by visiting bbegroup.ca or writing to enquiries@bbegroup.ca. Also, watch out for BBE's upcoming episode on mining now.
Hexagon's technology and solutions enable stakeholders across the mining industry to make better decisions faster. Get smarter integrated cloudware, sensor software solutions, and in-field apps that connect mines to boardrooms in real time. Hexagon offers safer, autonomous, more sustainable open pit and underground mining solutions spanning exploration and planning, safety, and operations. Visit hexagon.com/mining or email info.min@hexagon.com today.
this is utilised mainly for what I would call mill operators, which are people operating gold recovery plants using cyanidation, which is the vast majority of gold miners. So what that would entail would be a crushing circuit, a milling circuit to reduce the size, and then a series of tanks, which would be your cyanidation circuit, where you add water you're adding water to the solid ore coming through, which is then ground quite fine, and you add cyanide and lime and a few other chemicals, and that leaches the gold out and recovers the gold. When you do something like a fire assay or say a photon assay, which is the new technology, they're very good at determining what gold might be in the ore before it enters into the circuit. What it doesn't tell you is how much of that is recoverable through your cyanidation process. So what a bottle roll is simply, it's all in the name. It's a bottle or a jar where you'll put a known amount of, say, a kilogram of the ore, pulverized up to quite fine to mimic what's happening in the plant. You'll add an amount of water plus cyanide and maybe some lime chemicals for its pH control. And you'll then rotate it and you'll put it on a roller, which then basically agitates that slurry mixture, as you call it, for a period of time, 48 hours, 24 hours, 96 hours. It's a reasonable amount of time depending on the time it takes to get through your circuit, and it will recover or leach the gold out, and it will give you an indication of how much of that gold you can actually recover out of your circuit. It's a standard test, and it's extremely useful for the mill operator to understand the recoverable gold, which is the amount of gold he can get out and then recover via the gold room circuit. So the fallback of the problem with the bottle roll test is, like I said, it takes 24 hours, 48 hours, upwards to 96 hours sometimes. This is where Leachwell came into it, and originally what we were using Leachwell and pushing the Leachwell 60X to the market, which you add a quantum of that material into the bottle roll and accelerates the cyanidation process. So rather than taking, say, a minimum of 24 hours, it'll take 1 hour. So your bottle roll result is available within that 1 hour. What that allows the mill operator to do is determine and control his plant in the way that he understands that, okay, he might be having a 1 or 2 grams coming into the plant, but he can then understand how much he's going to recover. So if he's not recovering that, then he can understand that maybe he needs to go into his plant and do something in terms of cyanide rate addition or grind size or whatever it may be to increase the recovery on his and his plan. So hopefully by explaining that, the bottle roll technique, that really pushes on into all of our products are based on that sort of technology or that methodology. The PEL, which you can see behind me, is effectively doing 52 bottle rolls within an hour, plus the grinding and pulverization. So from that bottle roll technique, we've developed through with the assay tab and the Leachwell into the PEL technology. So in terms of process control, that's where we're coming from regarding the control of the plant to understand recoveries using the cyanidation process.
Okay, I wanted so the 3-tier bottle roll and the PEL 1000 is okay. So why would you have one or the other?
Okay, so back to your original question, I think was can you use one or the other? So the assay tabs can be put into the bottle roll because they're a quantum of cyanide and Leachwell. So you can put 1 or 2 tablets in rather than measuring out powder, and that's where the assay tab comes into it.
Right.
So the 3-tier bottle roll was designed normally in a plant setup. You might have 1 or 2 jars that you're using with bottle roll. Our 3-tier bottle roll can take up to say 50, 60 plus jars. Allows you to do a lot of different bottle rolls, multiples of bottle rolls. The difference between bottle roller and the PEL behind you is the pulverizing aspect of it.
Oh.
So if you're to do the bottle roll technique, you might get, if you're taking ore from the pad before it goes into the crushing circuit, you're taking quite large pieces of dirt or rock. You then have to sample prep it, which basically means splitting it down from size, larger weights down to smaller weights, crushing it, and then grinding it in a pulverizer, which may be a ring pulverizer, which is just a bit of laboratory equipment, which will take it down to micron sizes, say 50 micron, 60 micron, 70 micron. What the PEL allows you to do is undertake that bottle roll test, but rather than going through that assay prep process and the pulverizing, you can feed the coarser samples into the PEL. So it's effectively the same. It's the same methodology in terms of the chemistry, but from the physical point of view, you're taking out a big step, and that's where you get the benefit in terms of times and cost saving using the PEL equipment.
Right. Well, and I saw, and again, I'm just trying to put it all together, which the way we did it last time, we just didn't have enough time to sort of dig in these. So I saw one. So like the Leachwell is like you can use that. And again, I'm just going to butcher this, and then you can fix my mess. Like they can be used with like the Knelsons, like these other gold concentrators that are out on the market. So, and I want to make another clarification before I dig into that. So, because I was the Leachwell and the assay tabs. I'm sorry to ask this because I just want to clarify. So what is the key? What is the difference between those two?
It's Canada's premier event for mining, metals, and materials professionals. The Canadian Institute of Mining, Metallurgy, and Petroleum will be hosting its annual convention and expo in May in the beautiful city of Montreal. The technical program will feature expertise from a wide range of leaders across industry sectors. Are you working on a project that others in the industry need to know about? Well, let them know. CIM is now seeking presentations on a variety of topics. You can visit them at convention.cim.org to learn more. PowerZone carries a massive inventory of pumps, engines, generators, and compressors. However, they don't stop there. They combine imagination with world-class engineering. They detail the entire process to every customer. Their pump package testing facility ensures your equipment is landing on-site, ready to work. That is PowerZone. Start with inventory, develop with imagination, deliver with integrity, and it's all at powerzone.com. That is PowerZone.
Okay, so Leachwell is the chemical which is the cyanide accelerant. So that speeds up the cyanidation reaction.
Okay.
Now, back to what you were just saying in regards to being used in Knelson concentrators, etc. That's coarse gold recovery. So it's part of the mill circuit, the milling gold mine circuit. You can recover coarse gold, which is, as it says, particulate type gold, quite nuggety gold, prior to going through that leaching process. So if you can physically remove it through gravity method means, like Knelson concentrators as the example, then you can basically then avoid going through that whole leaching process. You don't have to leach it. But what in the Knelson or any of the other gravity concentrating units, you'll take other material to increase your recovery, you'll maximise your recovery, you might take other mineralogies such as sulfides or whatever it may be. So what you will then do is place that into a reactor, which then high intensity cyanidation reactor, where you will place our LeachWELL GC product in with the cyanide, and it accelerates that leaching process. So you're throwing a lot of cyanide, the LeachWELL reagent, and that'll recover the coarse gold from the gravity circuit. The LeachWELL 6X material is used as the bottle roll assay. So that's what we're using that for. What the assay tab is, it's a tablet of cyanide and LeachWELL together in a ratio, a particular ratio, which then allows you to safely add that into the bottle roll or a tumbler or the PEL machine, so that you've got the correct amount of cyanide and LeachWELL for that cyanidation dissolution to occur. So the LeachWELL you can buy separately for bottle rolls if you don't want to, if you're just adding cyanide and LeachWELL. You can buy it, you can use LeachWELL for recovery of coarse gold, or you can have the assay tab, which is the combination of LeachWELL and cyanide, which then can be used in bottle roll or PEL assaying.
Or in the PEL, and the PEL is again, just to clarify, so the PEL is the one where if you're basically taking the actual samples, that will essentially pulverize it while it's doing it, right?
That's right. So, right. Yep. So if you actually look behind me, you can see the PEL open, and it's the yellow pots that you see are cast iron pots with grinding media in there, which is cast iron balls. You'll put, say, 2 millimeters upwards. Some customers use up to 10 millimeter feed size, so quite coarse. Gets loaded straight into the pot, and you put the lid on with the cyanide, the tablet. 2 assay tabs go in there, and it rotates around, which I think there was a bit of a video in the last interview, which you can look at. And that basically grinds and leaches at the same time using the assay tab to extract the gold and the LeachWELL component to accelerate that process. Okay,
so now what I want to try to do by the way, these are the funnest. These are the harder interviews for me from a technical standpoint, but they're a lot of fun because you actually walk away going, oh, this is how it works. So often it's like you can't really get a chance to dig in, especially on the first interviews. Okay, so when a customer comes to you, let's say it's an operating plant, can you set up a couple just scenarios? It don't have to be specific examples, but just a couple scenarios where they have the need, and then you have to sort of apply which one. How do you even choose? How do they decide which process is best for them?
From the point of view of a bottle roll or a tumbler or a PEL or just using LeachWELL or whatever it may be.
Yeah, so they've got the processing plant, and now they're trying to decide which part to interject your technology into.
Okay, so yeah, that's a good question, and it relies on a technical discussion with the customer as to regards to what their issue, what their problem is, and what solution we can provide. So, from the point of view, if they're just doing a couple of bottle rolls and they're quite a small customer who's only doing a couple of samples a shift, then we might be only supplying LeachWELL or the assay tab. But if it's a larger miner who's doing grade control, which is the assaying, the geological samples which determine where in the ore body they're going to mine, so they're looking for the grade, then we'll point them towards PEL, because then they can do large amounts of samples
with minimal process, with a minimalized process.
That's right. Yeah. Or if it's a chemical laboratory, like one of the big geochemical labs, they might want a combination of bottle roll, PEL, whatever it may be with the assay tab. So it really it means interacting with the customer and understanding what their need is and providing the best solution. But to go on with that as well, there's also needs to understand who you're talking to. So from the point of view of grade control, you're most likely talking to the geological manager or some sort of person with a geological background. So they're looking at purely understanding the gold within the ore body. Perhaps probably what I'm talking to more about at the moment is in the process control of the milling process.
Okay.
So understanding the best way to set up and control the plant that's being used to recover the gold, using whatever we have on site, and more often than not, that would probably be pointed towards the PEL and the assay tab.
Okay, so on that stream then, are you talking about making adjustments to the actual how they're processing it? Okay, so then in that respect, then what would be an example of that, just so we can sort of have an understanding of it?
Well, there's just back to, I'll give a really good example which cropped up in the last 6 to 12 months, but just prior to that, in terms of the process control, it can be done either before the ore has been put through the plant, or it could actually be done while it's being processed or at the very end.
Right.
So there's a range of different things. So when I'm talking about the pre-treatment side of it, that would be before you've even processed the ore. So you can take samples from what's called the run of mine or the ROM pad as to what blend of ore is going through your plant, run it through the PEL, and you'll see the maximum recovery you can get from that prior. So you'll be able to see if there's any issue. From the point of view of while you're operating, you can take samples within that processing circuit and put them into the PEL. They can already be ground up through the milling circuit, and you can predict what your plant should be doing, because there are variables that you can change within the PEL machine and to time and speed and that to be able to see what's the best recovery for your circuit. Now, normally you could do that through a bottle roll, but that takes, like I said, 24, 96 hours. Well, using the PEL, you can do that in an hour, and you've got 52 samples you can put through there, so it's pretty powerful. At the end of the process, you can take a sample of the tailings coming, what's called tailings, which is the material coming post-treatment out of your plant, and put that into the PEL machine, run it for a period of time, absolute maximum an hour, and if you're getting more recovery using the PEL process, so you're getting more dissolution,
then you know you're missing something.
Then you know you've got. That's right. So a good example to use would be based on the pre-treatment side of it, the pre-analysis, where we had one of our larger customers using the PEL technology for grade control, where grade control is where you're taking a sample to determine where to mine and where not to mine. Is there gold in this particular part of the ore body or not? Typically, you're taking a lot of samples put through the PEL machine to do that. Now, when that particular customer had identified prior to mining where their gold was, they determined there was a particular part to mine. When they started putting that through as grade control in the PEL system, the recoveries dropped from 90+% down to 60%, which was highlighting that there was a recovery issue. Now, it could have been the PEL methodology, but the quality control, quality assurance associated with that methodology showed that it wasn't the PEL that was actually producing the methodology that was wrong. So what it turned out to be that was there a refractory component within the ore body. What that means from a refractory is it's not able to be put through a normal process of milling and then leaching without some sort of pre-treatment, normally due to sulfides in the ore body, which can chemically lock up the gold within that sulfide matrix, or it might be very fine and it needs to be ground very, very fine prior to treatment. So there may be some sort of pre-treatment prior to cyanidation that was required. Now, if the PEL wasn't used for the grade control and you were just using something like photon assay or you were using fire assay, it would have just shown up X grams per tonne or X ounces of gold, and it would have gone through the plant. where that would have manifested and turned up was in the actual recovery of the plant. So the recovery of the plant would have dropped down to 60%. So what it enabled the miner to do, or the customer to do, was actually to not mining that particular bit of dirt, or not mining but not putting it through the plant, and they were able to sort of isolate that pending determining what sort of process they're going to do. So that shows from not only the grade control point of view, but it also handled process control elements to the mill operator to understand that if that had gone through his process, it was not to do with anything of the existing processes, more due to the ore itself and further work needed to be done on it. So that's a very good example that's been given to us lately of where the PEL came into its own in regards to predicting recoveries and the cyanidation samples assay in terms of predicting recoveries through the plant.
That's kind of perfect. But I wanted to also sort of get an idea of when do you end up talking, like that customer, when do you end up talking to them? There's two parts to this question, actually. When do you end up commonly talking to a customer? But two, also, do you get who ends up sort of, if someone's reaching out and saying, hey, we need to look at your machines, who would that typically be? At what point, because you're sort of identifying, you're identifying an issue if they have you, but if they don't have you, they might not know they have the issue. So it's sort of a tricky thing. I'm just wondering sort of how you approach that.
So as to who we're talking to, or how those customers are talking?
Well, how do you have to, when you're trying to get out into the market, are you, how do you kind of, they have to have your machine to know they have a problem, or they have to know of you to know that they need to put your machine to identify if they have the problem? Or do I have that backwards?
No, I think I understand what you're saying, and you're on the money. It's a lot of because we have so many PEL machines out there. So we're producing, the one behind us, I think number 80 or 81. And of that, probably about 50% are out in market. So there is a lot of users out there. So
right. Because
of the transient nature of the mining industry globally these days, a lot of our customers are via referral, or they're actually worked on a previous site that's had a PEL system and they like the result. Because from a metallurgy point of view, it's a very strong assay for the metallurgist, is the guy undertaking the process control of the milling plant. So if they've used it once, they'll understand the efficacy of it and then contact it. But if they've got that problem and they don't understand that we provide a solution, then it's like anything. We need to get out to market, do things like we're trying to do now, talking to you, Jared, is to understand this. This is the problem that our technology will solve. And if you were to use it, this is what the cost would be. This is what the operating issues might be, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a combination of existing understanding, marketing to let our customers know, and potential customers, as to what's out there, and also being ahead of the curve to try and see, okay, how can we make this piece of machinery behind us a lot better so it's consistently meeting our customer demand.
And just to wrap up, we touched on this a little bit last time, but I kind of want to package it together in this way, is most of what you're providing, though, it's operational from anybody working at the mines, right? Like their teams will be able to operate it fairly quickly, I think you said last time.
Yeah, definitely. It's the machine behind me, if you were to see it, and you can see it on the website and so on, is pretty much plug and play. It's taken off the back of a truck, put onto a concrete pad, leveled up. Once you have power to it, and services such as water, very little training required. It's very easy to use. So perhaps if you've never run in a laboratory before, it might be
right.
You might have issues, but it's rare for that to occur. We can go to site to assist in that training and so on, but obviously that's been a bit difficult with the issues that we've had around travelling around the world in the last few years. But but saying that, what it's allowed us to do is train and commission with other means such as video conferencing and so on and so forth. So it's not necessarily required. And I was relaying a story to a colleague about how robust this bit of equipment is, which is really designed for the inherent nature of operating on a mine site, which is not the nicest of the environment. Literally, our customer dragged it off the back of a truck in country, and it fell on its side. And they picked it up, put it on the pad, plugged it in, and off it went. So it's a very robust bit of kit and very, very easy to use.
Yeah, no, it's and we'll just clarify to the audience that is not a recommendation for the equipment, just so that nobody can say, "Well, I saw this clip you said." just drag it off the truck if you don't have a forklift. Nathan, it's great to have you back in the show. I like I mentioned, these interviews they're a different style when you're actually just sort of walking through the process, but I also find that the audience really appreciates them for the right people to listen to it. So thanks for coming back on and actually going through this. I just didn't get to dig in the way I'd like to on the first episode. So thanks for taking the time to do it.
My pleasure, Jared. Thanks for having me again.
And thank you, everybody, for watching. We're going to be filming a few more episodes from Australia. It's been lots of fun, so keep watching out for those. And we're going to have everything that Nathan was talking about on the show today. We're going to have plenty of links. We're going to sort of layer it out for you so you can go through after watching the interview and see where to go for it. And, of course, their contact information if you need to get in touch with them. So thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next episode of Mining Now.